Today I want to talk about three different things that makes the CS majors out of date. Number one is the curriculum. Number two is the skills you pick up. Number three is the team collaboration. So number one, curriculum. I've done CS from 2017 to 2020 in the University of New York. My parents and my families also have done CS across the different countries back in the 90s. And so the curriculum they learned, I actually had the same exact curriculum, believe it or not. When you look at great products like Facebook and YouTube and Shopify and Netflix, they have a team role called product manager. The product manager's goal is to look at a metric called NPS. NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, and you want to talk to your customers and see how happy they are. I think most schools have anti-NPS. It's like, what can you do to piss off students? What can you do to make it very hard and very rigid for most students to catch up and become elite performers of that field? So it's a very difficult process that's very rigid and one size fits all and hasn't changed much. That's my first qualm. The second is skills. So let's look at the world today. It's changing so fast, right? Every single day, there's a new large language model that's out there. Every single day, new technologies and frameworks that are being updated. If you use an old framework, like if you're using Node.js or Python or TypeScript, you have all those packages, and every time you compile something, you have a bunch of dependencies or packages. You now have to create all of them, right? Because there's so much innovation that's happening. Also within the field, we're seeing research go from universities to actual companies. They publish research papers, documentations, and videos, and people are just waiting to tinker with them. I'll give you one example. There's a company that does deepfake videos called Synthesia, and they're publishing new avatars which have emotion detection. You have a deepfake video that can move around their lips and hands and makes it look very real. They're publishing papers. Duolingo is publishing papers. We talked to the founders, we talked to the head of AI. And so skills that you learn in school, right? Archaic C++ and Java and computational theory, and it's not just a curriculum, but your computational background is also archaic. You know what? Proof is in the pudding. And I'll mention the story of what the head of AI at Duolingo told me when I asked him at our event. The last thing that I want to mention is the collaboration skills. So what does team collaboration really mean? Team collaboration is the ability to ask for feedback and give feedback. It's the ability to ask questions. It's the ability to communicate with your stakeholders, your customers, and your manager. It's the ability to communicate and articulate, get visibility, and also work really hard understanding that someone else is going to look at your code at the end of the day. Someone else is going to use your product. Team collaboration is so important, but is not emphasized at all in the curriculum and the skills, theology, taxonomy, and pedagogy that universities give. Team collaboration is like the worst. Like whenever we do group projects in school, it's most of the time one person doing it. Whenever we do group project in school, it's like a time to fool around. Most of our CS classes are not group projects. They're individual. In the real world, there's hardly a time when you work alone. There's always somewhere you have to make a pull request into a larger entity of bodies. Here's what school does not teach, or how the entire serious curriculum is different. Number one is folks have to give and get a lot of feedback. Number two, they have to work in high team deadline environment. Lastly, people have to work in large legacy repos, right? So most of the projects that people do in school are mostly like great app stuff you do on the side, like at Udemy. Sometimes you get a little bit more fancy with it, but most of the time it's still a solo project or not really a big giant code base with 10,000 lines of code that you need some help. You can say like, hey, that's what internships are for. Great. But just one summer, most of the time when you have an internship, you're not actually working on something that's prod ready, right? You're working on something that's in a backlog that the engineers don't want to work on. I want to create a world where people can have that work experience from day one instead of waiting till the day they graduate college and then just scurrying wherever they can from corner to corner, north to south, east to west. Hey, what can I do? I have nothing on my paper. The only thing I have is just one line on my resume, which is my education. And I would hate to see that in the future. And that is the world that I want to change, where folks can have experience from day one. Now, what did the Duolingo founder, or specifically the head of AI, tell me when I told him, dude, you have over 1,000 citations on your machine learning research papers according to Google Scholar. If you were to restart your journey, what would you do? And you know what he said? He told me, Yassine, if I were to restart my journey, I would just work at a startup, learn the most I can about the field, about AI, while I'm at a startup. He didn't say get a master's. He didn't even credit too much to universities. He said just go out there and build things and work in a fast team environment. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate the time, and see you next time.